I have a joke file, but I found this on an email that a friend of mine, I used to be in a group called, not Leads, I don't know, BizNet, I think it was. So this is from Raul. He said, said, because we just had Halloween, so here's a little funny thing. And just picture two brooms, and one looks like a little girl, one looks like a little boy, okay? Two brooms were hanging in the closet, and after a while, they got to know each other so well, they decided to get married. One broom was, of course, the bride broom, and the other, the groom broom. The bride broom looked very beautiful in her white dress, and the groom broom was handsome and suave in his tuxedo. The wedding was lovely. After the wedding, at the wedding dinner, the bride groom leaned over and said to the groom broom, I think I'm going to have a little whisk broom. Impossible, said the groom broom. Are you ready for this? We haven't even swept together. Come on, that was good, clean fun. Oh, well, as you, or you may not know, the reason I named my talk the Loving Connections, actually, is that I was just at my mom's and I called her and I was preparing, and I have to fly into San Francisco and then fly into Eureka, California, because my mom lives in Fortuna. And it's a schlep if you have to drive all that way. So anyway, my mom says, I said, you're going to be 95 on Sunday. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get there for your birthday. Oh, I don't care. I don't need to celebrate. Right? And I thought, you know what? And then Roxy and then Art both said, no, she cares. Get your buns there and go. So I did. And what ended up happening, I have 4 brothers, and 3 of them live in that area, well, close enough, and one of them lives in Hawaii. So what ended up happening is that 2 of my brothers and their wives came up on her birthday, which was great, which was Sunday, and then the oldest brother, who is he's becoming a hermit, because I was talking to his wife. But anyway, he even showed up the next day. So it was kind of, we spaced it out because, it's a lot for energy-wise. Even I was like, with everybody yakking at each other. But it's so great because like you said, we all have this memory, of things that happened when we were kids and things that happened as we were growing up, right? And you have those shared memories, which is really kind of cool. So Loving Connections is like, I was noticing, and I thought at one point, I said, we're not that close. But then as we got together, I realized we're close without having to say anything about it. We all get along, and we may have difference of opinions about things, but, essentially there's that love there, like EJ was talking about. So I was looking at, well, what other stories, are there out there? And I was looking at a interview with Smokey Robinson, who's a cool guy. I had no idea about him. Do you? Where he came from, his name, all of that. So he said he wrote his first song when he was 6 years old. And I mean, that's just a child that knows that, this is God just saying, you are anointed with that blessing and we want you to do it. And I guess his mom had a piano, and when he was a little guy, he used to, crawl over or walk over there and start playing on it, singing as loud as he could. So, because he said that was his joy, and that's how he felt connected, to the divine. So she said, he said, one of the quotes that he says, always take care of your family and your relationships and your family. And I thought watching this interview was a perfect thing for me because it's so true about us to stay connected and find that space where we do feel good about each other. Well, my mom has, I'll get back to Smokey in a minute, but my mom has 3 apple trees. So at 95, you think she's out there trying to get the apples? No. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And so I got out there and I'm starting to get them, shaking the tree because we didn't have a picker or anything. And then my sister-in-law says, okay, I'm ready, let's go. And so then we did more. I don't know, we must have got like 10 or 12 boxes of apples off of that thing. Then my other sister-in-law comes over and she says, well, you know, we have hens and chickens and we've got horses. I'll take all the stuff that's fallen on the ground. So then we're cleaning all that up. Well, my brother didn't want to be, you know, left out of the fun. It was kind of like, you know, what is it? The guy painting his fence, Tom Sawyer. So he says, I said, oh, it's so much fun, Michael. Yeah, let's go. Come on. You need to help us pick those apples. So anyway, but we had that loving connection, you know, just doing that. And, you know, okay, watch out, I'm shaking the tree. You know, and it was really, really fun. Picking apples off a tree, really? But it's the simple things that bring us close together and help us have that joy. So getting back to Smokey Robinson, he had an uncle that used to take him to the movies all the time. When he was a little boy, he loved the cowboy movies. And you know who he loved the most? The singing cowboys. Gene Autry, and who's the other one that sang? Roy Rogers, you know, so all the singing cowboys, because he loved to sing. And he goes, a cowboy and he sings? That's the best of both worlds. I love it. So anyway, he said, his uncle says, you know, you got that, you love cowboys so much, we have to give you a cowboy name. So he nicknamed him Smokey Joe. Oh. Smokey Joe, that's how he got the name Smokey, okay, from his uncle who he loved. And that's where that came from. And I thought, oh my gosh, how cute is that? And then he said, his mom, you know, when he was young, she died. He must have been about 8, or I'm not sure that he didn't say the exact age, but he was a young man. And he said, and she says, bring the little boy into the room, and she's dying, and she says, be a good boy and love God. Be a good boy and love God. Okay, Mama, but why are you telling me this? Okay, I'll be a good boy. And that's exactly how he was saying it. You just, opened your heart listening to him. So I guess he was at school when he learned that his mama had died. And he said his whole life, he just said, what am I going to do now? You know, what am I going to do? How am I going to, because his parents had gotten divorced. But I love what he said, and I feel kind of embarrassed because I remember when I got my divorce, it was not nice. And what ends up happening normally is that the parents will try to pit the other against each other with the kids. And he said his mom and dad never did that. Isn't that beautiful? So they got divorced, and they were always loving and always kind and always made sure that he had that support. Well, you know, it's interesting, but when he was he was raised in Detroit, and he said he grew up with Diana Ross and Aretha Franklin on the same street. Wow. Okay? Yes. And I'm like, this is so cool. I can't wait to tell you guys. But isn't that great? And he said he and Aretha were good friends from forever because they grew up as kids together. And he said he started probably as a teenager, and he got a group together. And then he went over to a place, and he was going to cut a record, and this one guy said, you're not any good. You're no good. Berry Gordy was there. Okay? This is before Motown. So Berry Gordy was there. Berry Gordy was a very loving, kind man. And he said, young man, did you write all those songs? And Smokey says, yeah, I did. He goes, come with me. I want to hear all of them. And this is, right? And so Smokey's singing his heart out, like 18 songs. And Barry said, that's a hit, that's not, this one rework this, do that, do that. Do you believe this is how God says, I'm going to bring this man into your life because this is your passion and your God-given talent. And that's how that happened. So then what happened after that is that shortly thereafter, Barry created Motown, okay? So he opened that particular record label, and what Smokey said was that, you know who was on the label? Of course, Stevie Wonder and all the greats, okay? And they're all, he says, and what he did, he created kind of a friendly competition that he wanted them to have great songs, and they would help each other write songs. So one of the things that he did, he was working with, I think it was Stevie Wonder, gave him a song, and he said, I want lyrics for this. And it was, oh shoot, I forgot the name of the song. It was like his best-selling song. I'll find it in a moment. Oh, Tears of a Clown. And so that went like viral and #1, and he said all he heard was the first 3 parts of the song, and he wrote the words to it.
Wow.
Isn't that great? And so he had said, he had gotten married real young, and he said to, he said, oh, I'm going to retire because I'm tired of touring and I don't want to do that anymore, and I've got a child and this and that. And his group said to him, oh no, we just got a hit. You're going to be touring for a while. You're not retiring, okay? So they did that, and they went around and they toured more, and then finally he decided he did want to retire. But he was working in the office for Berry Gordy. And he was doing, you're going, wow, why would he retire? He's a young guy, like 17, 18 years old. I mean, he was young, and he's retiring, and I'm tired of touring, okay? So anyway, he said, did that a couple of years, and then he said, Berry Gordy comes up to him and he says, I want you to go write a song. I want you to go record it because you're the most miserable man I've ever seen. This is not your job. This is not good. I know you think that this admin job is good, but I want your divine buns out of here. So he wrote, and he went back out and he wrote his album, and he did his whole single career, right? Which was great. So he said one of the things that was really, and I thought, wow, I'm watching this in the perfect timing. He said they were all family of Motown. They all supported each other, they all loved each other, they were all kind to each other, and it was a loving connection through everybody, and everybody supported each other. And he said, they would go out on tour, and he said parts of the U.S. were not friendly, okay, toward blacks at all. And so he said they even supported each other during those times because he said, he wasn't used to that. He was in his little world of we all honor, respect, and love each other, and it just wasn't happening with that. But he says, we just kind of said, okay, we'll just take care of each other, and we find people that are really nasty to us, we're just going to move on and not engage. And I thought, you know what, that's good. That was really good. So one of the things that happened, he said, drugs don't discriminate. And at age 40, he got on drugs, okay? And I love this story, I'm getting chills, because he said, he had his quote, and he said, regrets can become your blessings. So he was on drugs, and he was doing, I guess he was doing weed and cocaine. And he got really immersed in it for 2.5 years. And he wasn't picking up the phone, he wasn't talking to anybody, he was into his drugs. They were good, they were his thing. So one night, he said a friend of his came over, this is why I love this story, and he said, you have lost it, and you have no purpose, and you're such a great songwriter, and you're such a great singer, I'm going to pray for you. This sounds like Ernest Holmes, okay? There was a story about Ernest Holmes, and this guy was an alcoholic, and Ernest Holmes, and I can't remember, I can't remember who the other guy was, but they said, okay, we want you, this is the Ernest Holmes, this isn't Smokey. So Ernest Holmes says, you just go sit in your hotel room and you drink as much as you want because I'm going to pray with you with my friend. So they're praying on this man all night, all night, all night. You never heard this story? Okay, and after a while, the man puts down the bottle, he goes, I don't want to drink anymore. And they're praying and they're praying and they're praying. By the end of the night, the man quit alcohol, okay? Same thing happened to Smokey. This man comes, his friend, he goes, I'm just going to pray. I'm going to just pray for you all night. I'm going to sleep here. I'm going to be with you until we know that the Holy Spirit is now within you and we are going to take care of you. God has brought me here to help you. So eventually, he said, okay, I will. And he said, and you're coming to my church tomorrow. So he took him to the church, and the minister, he says, and I was surprised it was a female minister. And he said, what happened is that she looked at him, and she said, the Lord told me you were coming. And he said, what? And she says, yeah. She says, Lord, I don't know Smokey Robinson. He goes, just get ready, he's coming. So he came to the church, and she walked up to him, held his hands, and says, honey, I know where you've been. Because I was a smoker and a cocaine addict too. And then I found God. Isn't that beautiful? So she actually, I don't know he didn't say what kind of church it was, but they definitely did hands-on healing, okay? So she had people out, she goes, I'm feeling divine grace coming through me. I'm feeling it now. So people would come up, and if they had any kind of problem, he said she would touch them and they would just go flat, and they passed out. So she said she did that to him, because he came up there and she says, you know what? She goes, just know all is well. She touched him, he passed out, he never touched drugs again. Isn't that a beautiful story? I mean, how would you ever hear about this stuff, right? Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing. So the point to all of this, and why I'm telling you this, is that we have these loving connections from people that help us, like his friend who came there, but we also have the grace of God always supporting us and loving us, always. And I was kind of going through a little bit of a hard time the last 2 or 3 months, and I said, okay, I'm just going to continue to surrender this up and turn this over. Because you know what? I practice what I preach. And I did. And you know what? Divine grace comes to us in the most beautiful ways. It's not like we think it's going to come. It comes to us in ways that are perfect for us. So whenever we pray, just know that that prayer is going to be answered wherever we are. Yeah, Darylyn knows. So I'm going to share one last story. Now I'm going to get tears in my eyes. So my brother, you know, my daughter had breast cancer. I'm going to say had, and just went through the radiation treatment. And so, you know, I'm knowing all this well. And my brother's wife, you know, it was interesting. We were having dinner one night, and she says, I want you to say grace. Okay. I would never in a million years think that she would ask me that, because she was never really spiritual or overt about her feelings. And that was beautiful. So we prayed for my brother and my daughter, because my brother has stage 4 prostate cancer. So he's doing all of the alternative stuff plus the traditional together, because I believe that that's really a great combination. So we went out, and he's taking something. Now with women with breast cancer, they make you take something to decrease your estrogen. With men, they make you take something to get rid of the testosterone. My brother's like the Incredible Hulk, okay? My brother doesn't look like the Incredible Hulk right now. But he still looks pretty good. And, you know, so I looked at him, and I'm like, just be present. Don't say, oh, you look bad. Just be with him and be loving with him and be in that space. So we all go, let's go take a walk and let's go outside. And my mom kept saying, he just has to believe, he just has to be positive. And I said, okay, Mom, you need to just tone it down a little bit, tone it down, you know, because you know you're going to get more flies with honey than you do vinegar. So I said, just kind of ease them into it. And just keep telling them stories. Now, that doesn't work for anybody, right? It's like, think about it. Somebody does that to you, you want to just go slug them. Anyway, so I went for a walk, and I said, I was talking to my brother, and I just said, you know, I said, I'm going to tell you something. You can cry, you can feel negative, you can have all that. At the end of the day, my darling, you are your own best healer. You know that, because this is the brother that used to astral project when he was a little kid. He would come, and next day he would tell us, and my mom and I are the only ones that believed him. The rest are going, yeah, whatever. Anyway, but he would go and fly at night, and he would go visit, and he says, I saw the neighbors, and I looked in their windows. Well, he was astral projecting, because my brother was definitely a wild guy. He was great. But anyway, so he was listening to me as we were talking, and I said, so I'm going to tell you, it's this simple, that you just say, I'm healed and God loves me. I don't remember what I said, but a lot of times whatever it is, you're being given the words to say to your beloveds. You know that, right? And as you say, you're being guided. You're being given that information in order to open their hearts, to open themselves, to allow Spirit to come in and heal them. And that's really what it's about. So we took that little walk, and we were at the end of the walk, and he goes, I feel like walking some more. I said, okay. So we went and walked a little bit more. Well, the child, he's not a child, he's 50, and how old am I? 60, he's 63. And he's just been kind of like, worried about it. Well, who the hell wouldn't be? Wouldn't you be a little worried if you had stage 4 cancer and all these doctors are telling you you're gonna die? I mean, come on. So it does take some mental strength in order to dissipate that, especially somebody who isn't really in our teaching, right? And so as he listened, and he's listening to my mom, and he's listening to his wife, and his wife is going, you gotta be positive, you're gonna make it, and she says, but sometimes for her, she has to just sit down and cry, because this has been very difficult for her. And those two are like, they're like, that all the time. They're with each other 24/7. Lord have mercy. Anyway, so the next day, the day before he had to leave, he walked in the house, and do you know that man was transformed? He was positive, he was upbeat, and he was different than he was. Because at one point, I'm complaining about the cancer, and blah, blah, blah. And finally I go, and I just listened, and he goes, I'm talking about it too much, aren't I? Mm-hmm. Let it go, brother, let it go. So the next time I saw him, he did not talk about it at all. And he was happy and smiling and upbeat. Isn't that cool? And that's the power of prayer. That's the power of having our intentions create our reality in our life. So that loving connection with your family heals us, with friends, and the loving connection with God. And that's really all I'm going to say. Because God is always there taking care of us, blessing us, and always, always loving us. And if you can just believe that, you got it made, everybody. You got it made. And I know I have testimony after testimony after testimony from other people and myself. So you have a little issue in your life, surrender it up and let God take care of it. That's all I'm going to tell you. So peace and blessings, my beloved. Have a beautiful week and enjoy. Thank you.